Today, or this week I should say, marks the 125th anniversary of service for Mel Trotter here in Grand Rapids. It is today, right?
Yes, it is.
It is today.
Yep, this is our birthday.
Okay, so it is Pam Leggett, the Director of Development, here with me right now to speak on this. Thank you so much for coming out here to talk to us about your 125th birthday. First of all, congratulations on
Thank
125
you.
years
Thank
serving
you.
the community. Tell me exactly, if people are watching at home and they are not exactly sure what Mel Trotter does, what do you guys do? What services do you provide, and who do you go to support?
So we are the largest provider of services for people who are experiencing homelessness in Kent County. And we serve men, we house men, and we house families at our shelter. And we also do a lot of work in the prevention and diversion area, which means that we work with all the schools in Kent County and help families on the brink of homelessness to be able to stay in their homes. We help them with maybe funds for car repair, something that keeps them out of homelessness. Additionally, we have extremely robust workforce development programs that help people get jobs, and we have a lot of really interesting ways that we're combating the housing shortage. We have apartments, homes for transitional living, and we're building a tiny home community. So we're doing a lot of things to keep people out of homelessness and get them into a home and a job as soon as possible, while sheltering them while they need that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you guys, of course, offer a wide range of services. When you started 125 years ago, I mean, I would have to imagine the services did not look like how they do today. Compared to 125 years ago versus today, how has that evolved? How has your organization evolved to help the changing needs of Kent County over that time?
That's a great question. I think 125 years ago, it was safe to say that Mel Trotter was basically a soup kitchen. So we provided a place for people to get a meal and to lay their head. Now we sometimes serve soup, but we serve 3 wonderful gourmet meals created by a wonderful culinary team headed by Chef Peter. We also do, like I said, all of those other things. So yes, we are providing shelter services, we are providing meals, but our goal is to get people to leave the shelter as soon as possible and not just stay there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because not only do you provide the service of being a shelter, you're providing preventative measures for those folks that may not just have the resources to, you know, figure things out in that moment. Can you talk a little bit more about those preventative services? I'm curious about that. How does that work, and if somebody needs help, how can they get involved with you?
So we typically work with churches, United Way, and then schools. And again, the family is brought to us typically by a school, and they say this family's struggling, they're on the brink of homelessness. Because children who are homeless end up becoming much more likely to be homeless as an adult, we feel that this work is extremely important. So a lot of times what we do is just walk alongside that family, another set of eyes on the situation. When you're in crisis, it's hard to make good decisions and it's hard to see everything. So a lot of times we'll just come in and offer some assistance that way. We offer a one-time financial gift, potentially, like I said, to fix a car. If you lose your car, you lose your job, you lose your housing. So a lot of times our goal is just to stave off some of those things. And then we also just help them with other resources. A lot of times people aren't utilizing all of the services and resources that are available to them as a family. And so we help connect them with that. And then again, just walking alongside them, I think, is a huge piece of that, helping them with decisions, advocating with their landlord, just helping them out in any way that we can, because each situation is very unique.
Yeah, you mentioned, you know, if a child that grows up in the situation more likely to become that when they are older. I'm curious, is there any sort of education involved for those younger folks as they grow older? Is there any education that you guys provide so you can prevent that from happening?
That's one of the ways that we do walk alongside families, is really just to help the whole family. Okay, so let's kind of stave off this crisis right now, and then how do we prevent this from happening again? So that's where that prevention and education piece comes. And one of the interesting things that we do for individuals staying in our shelter is we offer a lot of financial education and budgeting training, and that's something that really helps people stick into their job and stick into their housing by just giving them the information so they don't end up back in the shelter. So you're right, that's an important piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, education is, if you don't know, you don't know. You've got to also kind of help those folks that aren't familiar with how, you know, those types of things should work. Let me ask you right now, in 2025, right now, how is the need? What is the need right now? Is it great right now? Or, you know, I guess I'll just ask you that. What is the need that you're seeing right now in your shelter?
So the need is greater in terms of numbers.
Okay.
The part of homelessness, the part of the population of homelessness that's growing the fastest is families. So that's extremely challenging and concerning because housing for families is much more difficult to find. Additionally, with the housing crisis, it's really hard to find places for people to live. So the need is great in terms of a greater number of people experiencing homelessness or at risk for homelessness. And then the need is especially great with the people in our shelter because they're staying longer because it's harder to find them shelter, harder to find them housing.
How do you guys combat that? If it's longer for them to find housing, if some of these issues are being prolonged, how does that change your job?
Well, my job is to fundraise, and we exist primarily on donations.
Okay.
So really that creates this huge need for funds coming into Mel Trotter. We really need the help of the entire community because if we can raise more money, we can build more housing and put some more families and individuals out of the shelter into those places to live. In fact, like I said, we're building 16 tiny homes. We're breaking ground on that in March. We're building some homes, in fact, with our construction team that are workers that have gone through the Mel Trotter employment program. So one of the things that really does connect is more funds equals more housing equals more people out of the shelter. And so that's a responsibility of my team is to get those dollars in. And our donors are so supportive. The community is so supportive. They really truly care about the people that we serve. So that's wonderful.
We do talk about the phrase, it takes a village, and it
Yes.
certainly does.
Yes.
You're walking right down the path that I wanted you to go down because not only is today your 125th year, but you guys are actually doing something very important where you will rely on donations today.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. What are you guys doing to celebrate your 125th year here in Kent County?
So financial donations are absolutely critical to the work that we do. We cannot do it without that. But what's also critically important is donations of stuff. We need urgently needed items as listed on the screen right there.
Yeah.
Our shoes, brand new underwear, sweatpants, sweatshirts, hygiene products. All of those items we need all the time because when people come into shelter, we want to be able to clothe them as well. And with nice items that they need. We also always need bed sheets because we give our guests brand new linens each day. And so as we're washing those, sometimes they just don't hold up or they disappear. So we always want to provide good, nice linens for the beds and items that our guests
What about,
need.
so you're talking clothes, are we talking used clothes, gently used clothes, new clothes, any of those items?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We do require new underwear, of course. That makes sense.
Well, sure, yes, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Well, you're talking about things that, you know, someone like you or I who lives a normal everyday life, we don't think twice about, right? And so these things are needed for those folks who just don't have access or resources to get those things.
Right.
So we talked about what kind of donations you need. If people cannot drop off today, where else can they go to drop off with you guys?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful Amazon wish list.
Okay.
So you can order that. It's shipped
You
right
do it right
to
from
us.
your couch right
yes,
there.
Yes, exactly, right now. So that Amazon wish list is highly utilized. It's super convenient for donors, and it has all the things that we need. You just do that. Otherwise, we take donations actually every day. We're just having a celebration today, trying to drum up some things that are urgently needed as winter months are high needs for all of those items.
Absolutely, especially in the winter. Can you give me an idea of why the winter months are such a struggle for, you know, really I've heard of a lot of organizations that really tend to struggle in the winter. Why is that?
We just have a lot more people in shelter in the winter months. You cannot survive at night in the cold. Where in the summer, some people choose not to come into the building and they could be safe. Right now, it's just not safe to do so. So we see more people in need, more people in our building, and more people in need of all of those items that we mentioned. So just simply the weather is a huge factor.
Absolutely, especially over the last several weeks where it's been, you know, below 32 degrees, below that freezing mark. It really has been cold. Let me ask you, because you have mentioned this project, and I've been hearing about this project. I've been in Grand Rapids for almost a year. I've been hearing about this project since I've been here on the ground. the tiny house project.
Yeah.
How did that start? Tell me about it, and why is it going to be important going forward for this community that we're talking about?
So many people who are experiencing homelessness, they actually lack community and they lack people.
Okay.
They lack relationships. So one of the things that we are trying to combat with our tiny home community is both of those things: a need to creating housing. Just creating housing, and then secondly, filling that need for community. So these tiny homes are going to exist on our workforce development campus. They're going to be beautifully situated. They're going to have in-home laundry, in-home restrooms, and then they're also going to be situated by 10 apartments that are currently being occupied. So what that does is not only gives people simply a home, but it also creates community. We're going to ask churches to come in and do church services right there, have activities. A built-in community is going to be absolutely critical to get those people to be successful in their journey out of homelessness. But the tiny home is just simply a creative way to build some housing.
Well, not only that, build housing, but you're also teaching, how to be a homeowner if they've never experienced that before, which has got to be an important lesson.
Right.
My executive producer, Maddie, was just in my ear. She's telling me we've got the Amazon wish list on our web
PC
there.
Thank you so much.
This is what it looks like. You can see that we've got all sorts of different things, pots, pans. There's the shirts that you were talking about. Some gloves, of course, important for the winter months as well. And just some essentials that, the everyday person needs in their life to have a normal, as much as they can, life there. Can you talk about, again, just how important these items are for your organization?
They really are critical. We are definitely having to provide these on an everyday basis. When someone does graduate one of our programs and they get housing, we want to send them off with some items. If someone gets an apartment and they don't have anything to cook with, that's not going to work. So some of those items are for guests who are graduating from our program and leaving into permanent housing and they'll always have a job at that point. And then those are items just that we need all the time. We always need hygiene items, we always need clothing, and we always need shoes. Just simply things that, in Michigan, people cannot exist without. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's talk about the future of Mel Trotter. You're at 125 years, hopefully 125 more, right? I think that's the goal, or maybe even beyond that. We talked a little bit about the housing project that you guys are that you have going on right now. What else is in store for the future for Mel Trotter?
I think really getting, our CEO talks about getting those bookends to be really the most robust part of Mel Trotter Ministries. It would be wonderful if the need for our shelter services really shrunk, because we were doing so much more with prevention and diversion and really keeping people out of shelter. What can we do to make sure that people stay in their home, stay in their housing situation, and then how do we get them out of the shelter as quickly as possible? So we're going to really work on both ends of that, because that's where we really feel like we can make such a meaningful difference to people in West Michigan.
Yeah, you talked about the people in the shelter and the need that is great there. Give us an idea of, on average, how are people, are people close, or some people close to getting out of their current housing situation and falling into a homelessness situation? How often does that happen?
Well, our prevention and diversion team work with over 600 families every year.
Wow.
So those are the ones that have been identified through potentially a school system, but there's other people that fall through the cracks. So the need there is very great. And we try to, encourage the schools to get us involved as soon as possible, because early in the situation, before an eviction, before things have gone too far, we can really make a difference. Sometimes we have to then bring people into shelter, unfortunately, because it's just too late. But the quicker that we get involved with families at risk, the quicker we can make a difference and keep them where they're at.
Let's talk about the shelter itself right now. Are you guys at capacity, near capacity, or are you, kind of in a good spot right now?
We always house about 600 individuals
Wow.
every single night, and that's made up of about 36 families. We have 36 family suites, and those are always full. 100% of the time, those are full. And the minute a family exits, we have a family coming in. So the waiting list is long for housing for homeless families, unfortunately. And then the rest of the guests are individual men who are staying in our shelter. So right now, we're managing because the weather's a little bit warmer. When the weather is extremely cold, we bring in more people and open some overflow areas. and that's expensive for us to do because we have to bring in a lot more staff.
Right.
We've had to do that a few times this year, and it's certainly worthwhile to keep people safe. But right now, we're kind of holding steady at about 600 individuals staying with us every single night.
Okay, wow. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys do provide a wealth of services for those individuals that are clearly in, you know, in a population that really does need that help. So we really
Yes.
appreciate your
Yes.
time
you.
and
Yeah.
your service in the community.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, anything else that you think is important to talk about with this? I know we talked about the donation day, Amazon wish list, what people can donate, anything else that you can think of?
Just that, you know, this does take a community, it does take a village. You know, a lot of these people have ended up homeless due to strange circumstances. It
Yeah.
really could happen to anybody. So the one thing I always like to leave people with is this isn't something that is unique to a certain type of person or a certain type of the population. It really could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And so we ask for compassion, and we ask that people walk alongside us in doing this work.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, Pam, for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, and we're going to have that Amazon wish list
Wonderful.
linked
Thank
on
you.
13onyourside.com. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. All right.